Since Your Love. Thanks for performing that for us. It's a great worship song. A lot of people love that worship song. Some people would even maybe call it somewhat of a classic at this point. You know, I mean, it's been what? 3 years?
It's been a long time.
It's been, and you know, a lot of those people are probably wondering, where's the tutorial? Oh man. We can do one. You could do one right now. Brandon.
Sounds great.
Would you? Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it.
We haven't made one, have we? I don't think so. You haven't? No. So,
there's some stuff out there, but I've realized that it's a little complicated. It's not the most intuitive. So I just thought, you know, what the heck?
Hey,
let's do it.
Let's do the tutorial here because what are you kind of wanting to outline in it for everyone?
You know, just some chord structure,
chords,
how to play in a non-guitar key,
key.
You know, not guitar friendly. There's a little bit of a push, a little bit of. And, you know, just a few things like that. Just, you know, there's no pressure.
Yeah, none of that.
But how I do it and just some things I've learned along the way to make it easier to you know,
do it, to play it, to lead it. Because I think there's some people who could really use this.
Since your love got a hold of me, since your love got a hold of me, I'm a new creation, I'm forever changed.
This will help them.
It will.
This will help them.
It really will.
Maybe it's late, but it's still good.
It is. But it really will.
Tutorial. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Hey, this is Brandon Hampton with United Pursuit, and I am gonna show you how to play Since Your Love on guitar. It's in the key of B, which is not the most user-friendly key on guitar, but I've found some really cool voicings to play in the key of B, so I wanted to share that with you along with how that led me into writing Since Your Love in that key. Just to dive in, the first thing I want to share is the B chord that I start off with. If you've watched the video, the beginning kind of starts off with me picking a little bit, and one of the things that I do a lot is instead of strumming across the whole guitar, I'll only strum or pick through the notes or the strings on the guitar that I want to use, and the rest I pretty much leave out. So that simplifies a few things. So this intro is a perfect example of that, where when I start the song, I'm playing it basically like this. So one of the cool things that I found about playing B in this open way is that the high E string kind of has a sustained feel, and you can use that to your advantage. So that's how the song starts out, and then when I actually get into the verse of the song, I use sort of a standard bar chord method, starting with the low E string on the 7th fret, the A string on the 9th fret. Playing the A string on the 9th fret, the way I've got my ring finger across it, I'm able to mute the D string, which is really helpful so that I can play a open chord sort of and it not really be in the way. So it's a little tricky at first to learn, but it's super helpful in doing stuff in keys that aren't necessarily open, intuitive to open tunings and stuff like that. So there's that, and then I add a third into the chord, which is on the G string. It's on the 8th fret, and that's the major third. So it's the 1, the 5, and the 3, with the D string muted, and then I'm able to keep the B string open. And then to get that sort of sustained feel, the high E I can keep open as well, which is pretty fun. And then I take that same shape, I move it all the way down to the F sharp position. And sometimes that open feel might sound a little weird, so I'll move my index finger up to the 2nd fret on the high E string. Then I go down to E. And then on the C sharp, I do this pretty open voicing where it's just on the A string on the 4th fret, the D string on the 2nd fret, and the G string on the 4th fret, and everything else I can keep open. So it's still a C sharp minor, but it has way more of an open feel. And then I can switch back to the E, come back up to the F sharp with that high E on the 2nd fret. And that's how I play through the verse. So let me play that all the way through one time. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the chorus, and I do the chorus. I started off a little bit different. It makes it easier for me to both play and lead the song in this key. The first thing I do is just a standard bar chord, a little bit lower on the fretboard. So it's, on the A string, it's on the 2nd fret, and then on the D string, 4th fret, G string, 4th fret. Everything else is open. Or sometimes I'll put my middle finger on the high E string on the 2nd fret. So it gives that kind of a vibe. And then I'll move down to F sharp, but I keep it sustained. So the movement looks a little something like this. Then I'll move my index. Then when I move down to the E chord, I'll actually go back to the B bar chord and also play the E as well, because it's all relative. And then I'll switch, keeping the same shape basically, but moving my thumb, or you can switch your index finger over to the high E string onto the 2nd fret, and then if you've got it, move your middle finger over to to the low E string on the 4th fret. And but if for some reason you're used to using your thumb, you can do that as well. And then I just move it back down to F sharp, keep it sustained, and then I'll move my pinky off of the G string and then put my ring finger onto the G string a fret below it. So instead of the 4th fret, the 3rd fret. So I'm going to play through that whole chorus and show you what that sounds like all together. My favorite part of the song to play is the bridge, and this is where things kind of get fun. So I move back up to the verse shape in the key of B, and then so 2, 3. So basically, I hold a pretty similar shape the whole section of that song, and I'm just moving like 1 or 2 fingers. So I play the same chord structure that I played in the verse, and then I'll move up to C sharp, but to keep that kind of high dynamic going there and sort of that quarter note kind of vibe, like na, 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 na. What I'll do is I'll move up the bass line. So again, I'll do the 1, the 5, the 3, the open B, and then I'll actually play the high E string on the 7th fret to get that high register. And then I'll move my thumb up to the 9th fret, and then my ring finger switches on the D string to the 9th fret as well. So you still got like, it's a pretty dominant like B voicing, but it's just the low end that's moving around. And then I'll do one of 2 things. So I'll give you the simpler one. It's then I let my thumb off, and it's the low E, and then I'll move my ring finger back to the A string on the 9th fret, and then I'll do that little trick where my ring finger is muting the D string, and then move it back to the C sharp thing, back to that open chord, C sharp, back to B. Yeah. So it goes like this. Okay, so this part might be a little bit trickier, but it uses a similar method that I told you earlier in the song, where I use one of my fingers to mute one of the strings. So remember in the verse where the ring finger is kind of muting the string next to it, almost, I mean, looking down, it's like it's the string that's forward. In this part of the song, it's actually the opposite way. So on the first chord, I'm actually doing it that way. So I've got the ring finger muting that D string forward. But then I switch, and what I do there is I actually move my middle finger to the D string, playing the octave, and then I play the third on my index finger. And as I move up the fret, I actually switch to my ring finger, but the idea is the same, is that I keep muting that A string to maintain that open, almost what you call a walk-up type feel until I go back to resolve. And so the notes that I'm playing there is E and G sharp, and then it's F sharp, A sharp, and then it's G sharp, B, and then it's A sharp, C sharp, and then it goes back to the resolve. So let me play that all the way through for you. Oh, also, I'm using one of my fingers to add that sustain thing to follow the melody of the bridge. The "In you is all I need." And in that scenario, I'm using the same finger placement that I showed you, but then I throw my pinky in there for that sustained feel. So it goes like this. And every once in a while, just to add some dynamic, I'll actually throw my index finger in on the high E string on the 7th fret. Just do some hammer-ons there, hammer-offs. So it'll sound like this. Is how you play Cinch Your Love.
I don't sing, but I feel that this helps for the interview process.
Yeah, I thought about doing that once.
That's good to know.